Welcome to another episode. Today, we're getting into it. It's time for some real street sociology. Today's topic, gambling. And this is particularly in the Australian context, okay, because gambling in Australia is at a level far beyond anywhere else on earth. Okay, now the average losses per person gambling in Australia is $1,292 a year per adult in this whole country. I'm not sure how many adults there are in Australia, but there is about 25.5 million people. We managed to lose $1,292 a year for everyone. Now, obviously, problem gamblers make up a very small section of society. So again, this should help you understand that when you average it out across everyone, these specific problem gamblers are losing tens of thousands a year. Okay. Why is that such a problem? It's because, like I said, in Australia, we're far beyond everyone else. We lose the most money per person on gambling in the world, and not by a small margin, okay? The country that loses the second most money per person from gambling is Singapore, okay? They lose about 40% less per year than the average Australian adult. Okay, we lose about twice as much per person in gambling as the United States, about 3 times more than the United Kingdom, and about 4 times as much as Germany and France. So how has it got to a point in Australia where it is so far beyond what any other country would allow in terms of societal harm? And yet not only do we accept it in Australia, we seem to revel in it. And this is what I get back to about complexity in my last video. Here we go. It didn't happen overnight. This has been a gradual process, okay, of normalization. And that's deliberate. That's by governments and large companies, okay. Now, the first company that started really, let's say, weaponizing slot machines in Australia was a company called Aristocrat Leisure. Now, they hired neurologists and behavioral scientists, okay, and probably sociologists, much like myself, with much less morals, to basically work on making slot machines addictive, to make them release additional dopamine. Whether you win or lose, just doing this one, flashing lights. So they did hire behavioral psychologists and the like to make these things more addictive, to deliberately make them addictive. Now, this is the same with sort of most major corporations, but we mustn't normalize this. Hiring behavioral psychologists and neurologists to deliberately trick people into getting addicted to poker machines. There's nothing Aussie about that. There's nothing decent about that, okay? It's like, it's fraud, except it's actually more insidious because you get people to do it to themselves. It's evil is what I'm saying. Now, Aristocrat Leisure has lost its title of the big preeminent gaming organisation in Australia to a group called Woolworths. You might be familiar with them, such as Safeway, for example. They happen to be Australia's third biggest holder of gambling goods, like slot machines and the like. The biggest is Star Casino, the second biggest is Crown Casino, and the third biggest is Woolworths, the fresh food people. Okay. Now, it's because they have a sub-company called Australian Leisure and Hotels. This is important, yeah, because 30% of all of Woolworth's profit every year comes from income from gambling through Australian Leisure and Hotels, not the fresh food people, as they would have you know. Okay, 30% of all profit of Australia's biggest supermarket chain comes from poker machines alone, slot machines. That should pull you up pretty quick and make you sort of realise, hang on a minute, how far are we going to let this go? And of course, this keys into the way it's been normalised, okay? And let's relate these things to something every Australian will understand. Sports bet. In your face. It's Ladbrokes. No, it's sports bet again. It's someone else. You're at the footy, all around the stadium, and it's on the ads. Sports bet, sports bet, sports bet. Do it on your phone. It's easier, isn't it? Cricket, even worse. Now, we had alcohol advertising and tobacco advertising removed from these spheres years ago because it was blatantly obvious that the aggressive marketing of alcohol and tobacco products was causing severe societal harm. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out, do you? So why do we allow it with pokies and online gambling? We are losing billions. Funny you should mention that. We actually lost 24.5 billion last year just on gambling. So the problem, it's not just that it happens, it's that we've normalised it and internalised it to having a punt on whatever. Melbourne Cup Day. For Christ's sake, I was in high school, we got a day off for Melbourne Cup. Why? No one cares, it's used for gambling. See what I mean? We've normalised it. And the thing is, we've normalised this that we are 50% nearly worse than anywhere else in the entire world. And not only are we not so good at taking advice about this, we actually actively defend the intrusion of pokie machines into our life against people who would try and help us. Now, people come up to me with a personal responsibility argument. It's up to you how much you gamble. Yeah, okay, true enough. But don't you think it's up to the companies that provide these gambling services to not hire neurologists to deliberately get you addicted without you even noticing? That's not conscionable. That's not free market. That's evil. The reason why it happens in Australia is because we let it. It is up to us to stop it. The politicians never will. Why do you suppose the politicians are so invested in this? Is it because in the 1970s the governments of Australia, the state governments, discovered that, hey, here's a multi-billion-dollar-a-year excise tax windfall that we can make without having to do anything. All we have to do is poison our own communities with gambling and slot machines just everywhere. And we'll make all this excise tax. So let me break it down real simple. With gambling. The state wins, the government. Massive corporations, they definitely win. Do you win? No. All of this is built off your money. And the reason why it's allowed to be is because we let it. Gambling is a personal choice, but when it's weaponized like this and normalized like this, we can't allow this to continue because it's us that are suffering. It's not the companies who make all the money, it's us. So please understand, it's very complicated, but overall it's pretty straightforward. They have shoved pokie machines into every pub and club they can fit them in all around Australia to make billions from you. None of us make any from it, of course, but they do. So let's have a think about that. Gambling, it's not just because it's a bit of fun, it's because you're being told to do it without even noticing. Now, this is called Street Sociology, and I've given you that side, the sociology. So now it's time for the street. Here's a story of mine, personal experience. It was in Melbourne. Do believe it was around 2013. And there was, I played a gig with the band I was in Melbourne, and the venue closed. So me and some friends, we went looking for a pub to drink at. Okay, this would have been about 3 o'clock in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning. We went to a local place nearby in Melbourne, and it was TAB. Now, I've got a lot of people from overseas follow this. It's like just a normal. There's pubs everywhere, and they have certain pubs for gambling, and they have all the slot machines everywhere. A big one of those. Okay, so we didn't go there for the gambling. We went there because we needed more beer. So we went there, and for some reason they let us in, despite our non-interest in gaming. And we proceeded to get even more drunk and sort of laugh to ourselves at how ridiculous the slot machines were. I myself put $2 into one. The result was, not only did I not have $2 anymore, I was actually rather confused about where it went. So for me, there was no real benefit from this. The benefit came from watching other people. We were in there for no other reason than to drink jugs of beer until as late as we could at night, okay? Young people. What shocked me was watching from about 2:33 in the morning onwards, nice cars, new cars, coming into the car park. People getting out, wearing very nice suits and business wear, right, ready to go. Park their cars, go into the gaming lounge, and they sat there. I watched this for about 2 hours. To the slot machines, and these accept notes. So it's not just coins, it's like a $50 note. Okay. And I'm watching these people getting $20 and $50 notes and just tap, tap, tap. Oh, that's gone. I'll get another one. $50. Now, Australian dollar ain't worth quite as much as the American dollar, but I can assure you it's worth enough that shoveling $50 notes into a machine is not really a wise way to manage your affairs. But then it dawned on me, Why were these people coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning wearing literal finery and sitting at one of these stupid machines for hours? They're doing it before work. They all start work in the city around 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. I think this was like a Friday morning. So people were coming in and shoveling. I witnessed personally people putting a couple of $100 into these things each for hours before they go to work all day in the city, come back and gamble. And that was personally the point at which I realised, hang on a minute, we have got something going on in Australia that perhaps is not so widespread in other countries. That was my street experience. My sociology experience on this came from when I studied at university, and we went right into this. And more people need to know this type of stuff because it runs our lives and it's important. So yeah, gambling, why it's complicated, why it's bad, and why we need to think more about it. You can apply these theories I've just told you also more broadly to any other thing. Again, like alcoholism, drug abuse, all sorts of things. But there's reasons why. You're being told to do this stuff and you don't even know about it. And what do? Shove your money into the machine like you're actually going to get something out of it. There's only one winner in pokies, and it's not going to be you.